Welcome back, family, to another episode of the Melanin Wellness Podcast. Guys, y'all know that I am so into wellness and all of the things that wellness encompasses. So that's why I am so excited about tonight's guest. Tonight's guest is a 200-hour yoga teacher, my sister Yogi, okay? A certified personal trainer and nutrition coach who incorporates chakra healing and balancing into her wellness offerings. And now I cannot wait to get into this episode because this episode is all about the chakras, how to manifest with your chakras and learn how to use them to manifest that ideal life. But before we get into the episode, y'all know how we do over here. We always give our 30 seconds of gratitude. And in traditional style, our guests always go first. Sarah?
Thank you so much. I am so grateful tonight for the internet, for the broad, life-changing lessons that can come to us from all over the world when they used to be isolated or unavailable or inaccessible. The internet and our ability to record podcasts like this to bring an enormous amount of wisdom to our lives. I am daily just incredibly grateful for that. Despite, I know, the many drawbacks of the internet, that never ceases to amaze me. The access to lessons and experiences from all over the world it's life-changing.
Agreed. I am grateful today. I'm so grateful for my morning cup of green tea. First of all, it sparks my metabolism every single morning, and it just gives me a minute just to breathe. And it feels so good going in. And I am so grateful for that. I'm also grateful for the healthy breakfast that I had this morning, because not everybody has the ability to get that. So I am so grateful that I do have that. And I'm also grateful for that TV show I was watching earlier that made me laugh till tears streamed down my face, okay? Because nothing gets your metabolism revving more than laughing until tears stream down your face and your stomach hurts, okay?
Oh,
so I'm
feels so
grateful
good.
for that. Yes, right?
Right? Let's talk about your stress relief. I love that.
Yes. Now, y'all know that was more than 30 seconds, but y'all know how I say over here, who cares? You can never be grateful enough. When you are living in a space of gratitude, it is impossible for negativity to live there as well. So our guest tonight, as I told you, is Miss Sarah. And I cannot wait to hear more about you. So what was the driving force behind what it is that you do?
So I sort of came up two parallel paths. The first was in the health and wellness space, working as a group fitness instructor, as a personal trainer, and then, moving into the yoga space. And I did, I started that many, many years ago, 2 decades now. So I've been there a long time doing all of this work. And I was such a good little rule follower. I, did all of the programming exactly how I was supposed to. I said exactly the things that I was supposed to do and to say and programmed the way I was supposed to. And sometimes people got results and sometimes they didn't. And sometimes they got results until we parted ways. And then they went back to their old habits. And I thought, what is happening? What's missing in my coaching that is stopping people from really getting the physical results that they were looking for in the gym? On another parallel personal path, I was a student of the chakras. I learned about them when I was about 19 years old in college at a theater conference, of all places. And I wandered into this seminar, had never heard of them, had grown up in a very conservative household where we would never have learned anything like this. And as I sat down and the speaker started to explain it to us, I had a sense that I was hearing something very true, and it really resonated with me. So I started studying on my own. Again, this was 20 years ago. So I bought books. I listened to workshops when I could find them, things like that, just to start to learn more. And I started to incorporate the chakra system and what I learned about it into my own sort of personal development and spiritual growth journey. I was sort of moving away from that more more conservative way of thinking, the more sort of dogmatic way of thinking. And it really was helping me sort of broaden my understanding of the world, which had been quite limited. And about, going on 7 or 8 years ago now, I had sort of this moment where I realized, oh, I think it's time to start putting these two things together. They aren't as separate as I thought. We're always saying, oh, mind, body, but it was really a revelation to me that we needed to be in the gym working on our emotional health, on our spiritual health. And that doesn't have to be a specific god or specific deity or a specific way of thinking, but what is it that you feel connected to in a larger way? How can we become the kinds of people who make healthy decisions, that have that healthy breakfast, that have that, green tea when you have access to it? How can you be the kind of person who takes care of yourself in a loving and compassionate way every single day? Because that appeared to be the problem. People were struggling with their self-worth, and what they thought was if they lost weight or got in shape, then they would be confident, then they would love themselves. And I said, I think we need to flip that. I think we need to reverse that and start by valuing ourselves, by understanding our inherent self-worth as human beings, as spirits living in this world. And so I always joke, well, gosh, no one was paying me for chakra coaching. So, I mean, I kind of had to slide it in as we're doing sessions and stuff. And right, you don't want to ignore what people are there for. And physical health is certainly important. But when I was able to connect with people on their emotional health, and we talk about mental health as well, but this is, emotional is a little bit different. People were able to start really finding the physical results they wanted, and also realizing that the physical results weren't the thing that was going to make them happy. That wasn't the thing that was going to bring them the life they wanted. Losing 10 pounds in the end, honestly, did not mean nearly as much as understanding your feelings, being your authentic self. Stop trying to be something for someone else. So I started combining those things. That's kind of how I got to where I am. And then in 2020, I was like, I think it's time to share this. I think it's time to share this with the world. So I started a podcast just like you, right? I thought there's a lot of information that needs to get out into the world.
Yes.
And I guess I'm the person to do it. So I took the leap.
So now I heard you say that you come from a conservative background. So tell me, how does your family feel about that? Because my background isn't conservative. However, it's deeply spiritual. And so when I began to make my journey and my spiritual journey into chakras and, and affirmations and things like that, it was almost as though I was talking witchcraft almost.
Yes. I definitely come from a family where people will say, is, yoga satanic, right? And I'm not teasing or making fun of people. There is a lot of misunderstandings in the world. So
absolutely,
there's a lot of confusion. What are you doing? And I will say, for a long time, I was hiding in, the spiritual closet. I didn't really talk about it with my family, at least with my family of origin. But as I've grown in my confidence and my understanding, and really started to tap into my authenticity and realizing, gosh, this is who I am, and hiding it isn't doing me or the world any favors, just tried to use it as an opportunity for discussion. I'm very fortunate. My parents they're sort of love first people. They don't understand me sometimes, but that's okay. They're like, we love you. We don't get you, but that's all right. And then I was extraordinarily fortunate because my husband's mother is very spiritual and very open-minded. And I was able to have many conversations with her about these kinds of explorations and the journey that she took. And because of her openness, her son, who's my husband, while he also was like, I don't know what's happening to you. You're just, you are changing, but I'm going to go with it. So it's been I think it felt very lonely at first, but I will also say that was partly because I wasn't making the effort to connect. Not to say that, it's my fault or whatnot, but there are people that want to connect with you on your unique spiritual journey. You don't have to go by yourself. And again, the internet can help you find those people. And people will surprise you, like the people that you think will turn you away or think you're talking about witchcraft and shun you may surprise you, may be more open than we realize.
Yeah. And I was going to say, since we're speaking of chakras, when you were basically muting yourself, you were blocking your own throat chakra, which was
exactly right.
And it's like a terrible feeling. Feeling voiceless and powerless is an absolute horrible feeling. And I think that honestly, that happens to so many women.
It does.
So many women, so many of us are voiceless and powerless, and we don't understand and don't realize that that's a blockage there. And now, can you tell the audience how the role that chakras actually play in your wellness? Because listen, a blocked chakra causes all kinds of physical ailments that you did not even know that that's where it was coming from.
100%. I had sore throats. I mean, daily, weekly, constant sore throats because of that, right? It was manifesting itself as tension and tightness because I was literally cutting off the passage, which is narrow anyway. The throat is a very narrow passage anyway, but the passage between my head and my heart was blocked and nothing was getting in or out. I was not able to accept a downward, current of, liberation or manifestation, nor was I able to draw energy up from the earth, right? It was all very stuck. So that was something that I worked through, and I won't lie. I still work it. It's a daily practice, right? But the chakras themselves I like to picture them as sort of the place where the veil is the thinnest between the physical body and the emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies, between the finer bodies, the less dense material world. And so each chakra center of the 7 primary ones that we think about is responsible for a certain aspect of your physical body, like certain organs, glands, nerve complexes, nerve ganglias, right? So like if you think about your heart, that's responsible for not just your heart organ, your lungs, your shoulders, your arms. Do you have, this sounds ridiculous, but I promise you it's true. Do you have elbow pain? Well, is your heart blocked because you're unable to reach out? It's mind-blowing to me. And I've been doing this a long time on myself and with others, but it's still mind-blowing to me every time when we find these little things and we get that heart chakra open and they're like, oh, that triceps tendonitis I've been struggling with for 10 years is gone. Haven't had a problem since. I'm like, that is because you had some energy trapped there. And when you release it, you release the pain. You release, like, oh, I went to the doctor. They couldn't tell me what was wrong. Well, maybe that was because there was honestly nothing physically wrong with you. Now, that's not to say there aren't times when there is something that is a physical problem that needs a physical solution, right? If you break your arm, I feel like your heart chakra is probably not like, great, you can do that, but go ahead and go to the doctor, right? Go ahead and hit the emergency department, get a cast, right? Like take care of that. So like we got to be like reasonable and smart about it, but it is remarkable. If you have, I just interviewed a woman for my podcast who was having fertility issues. Fertility issues can be caused by a million different things, but for her, she did like 2 years of intense sacral chakra therapy, and then she conceived her son. And that's her story, not mine. I didn't know her when she was doing that. And she said she fully credits the work that she did there for allowing that space in her body to receive energy once again. And again, there could be other reasons. There could be a physical reason that your doctor can treat. But I think it's important, when we talk about the chakra system, to not discount how important our emotions are, how important those energetic blocks are to our physical wellness. Because it's not 3 or 4 different things. It's all one thing. We have to give it language to separate it because that's how we conceptualize things. But in the grand scheme of things, it's just very universal.
It's so funny because my entire life I suffered with migraines. I mean, I started having them when I was about 8 years old.
I'm so sorry.
And thank you. However, it wasn't until I want to say within the last year and a half that I began to get relief. I did everything. I was getting injected with anesthesia every other week in my neck, in my shoulder, in my head to control the migraines because they were so out of control. And it wasn't until I really began to research the chakras that I realized that my crown chakra was blocked.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, and when I say blocked, you might as well just put some bricks on top of my head and just let them there because nothing was like, it was bad. And when I really started digging deep and doing my work,
yes,
I very rarely have a headache anymore.
That's
very
amazing.
Rarely have a headache anymore. And it's just, it is amazing when you think about these things. And you, again, if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
Because, the way modern medicine has us feeling is every time there's an ache or a pain, go to the doctor, get some medication. Now, we're not going to be careless here and say that there aren't things that do require intervention of modern medicine. However, many of the things that we deal with from a wellness aspect can be addressed holistically. So give us a little picture, a little view into how someone can know if they have a blocked chakra.
That's a great question. And I think it's one of the most common questions people say, I have no idea. And my response is usually, you actually do know. What you're going to have to do is spend some time actually going inward, right? Doing body scans because your body won't lie to you. How do you know if you have a blocked chakra? Well, you probably have some symptoms of it or you wouldn't be asking, right? Do you have indigestion? Do you have a stomach ache a lot? Do you have various, intestinal problems? Well, you might think of that as a first place to look, as a stopping spot, right? Check your physical body, like check your legs, your feet, your knees, your hips. Check your belly, your heart, shoulders, even down to your fingers. Where do you feel physical discomfort? And start there because we tend to be very disconnected from our physical bodies in this world, right? And I think that's one thing that yoga does a really beautiful job with, is helping us reconnect to our bodies. And I know a lot of people don't want to use their yoga class for a spiritual practice. To me, there's no way to really separate those two things. But you can use your physical body to identify your energetic blocks. Like you were saying, you had the headaches. Well, start checking your third eye, start checking your crown chakra, right? They're physically located next to the physical structures that they govern, which is super handy, makes it a little bit easier. So do some research, right? And then if you find that you have a specific sort of emotional situation that you're going through, like one that we hear a lot is people feeling like they're just not enough. They're just not good enough. Right? Well, do some research. Why do you feel that way? And it doesn't have to be talk therapy, right? You can absolutely do that. And you can sort of do a deep dive into your past. And the chakras are related to various ages and stages of development. So sometimes that's useful. But do a little check-in. I don't feel like I'm enough. Well, which chakra governs our sense of being enough? Well, it's the root chakra. And so maybe you do a little exploration there. Maybe you do some grounding meditations. Maybe you get out in nature and reconnect to the earth. One of the most powerful things that we can do is connect back to our oneness. If we are connected to the oneness, how can we not be enough? I don't know anybody that looks at their children or their friends and says, well, you're not enough. You got to go. Like, what's the point of you? Right. We never do that.
Right. They wouldn't be our friend very long if we did.
Right. Like, I'm not interested. Thanks. I don't need that in my life. I got enough problems going on inside. I don't need that from you. But when you can reconnect to the value of the universe and recognize that you're part of it. And one way to do that is to connect with nature. It's a little bit easier to start believing in your own value, your own inherent worth. So I think that's sort of how you can start to discover where your energetic blocks are. And one thing that's really important to note is that everybody has blocks and imbalances at all times. We're human beings. We're living in this chaotic world, and things are happening every day that come in and affect our energy, right? Everybody knows that sensation of you're in a fine mood and something happens, and then you're in bad mood the rest of the day from one 20-second interaction. Yeah. Well, you had an energy shift, right? Okay. It's fine, right? That is part of the daily work. Maybe there's gurus or sages or whatnot that are perfectly balanced all the time, but that's not me. That's not.
That ain't me neither.
Right? Like and if that's you, could you call me?
So let me know.
I would love to know your secret.
Please.
But by and large, having some sort of imbalance doesn't make you less than. It makes you actually a part of everybody else, right? We're all working with our various chakra imbalances, chakra overactivity, and things like that.
So what is one of the biggest myths about your work?
Gigantic myth. First of all, that it's going to be easy, right? That you're going to meditate and it's going to feel real good, and that it's all going to be like sunshine and rainbows, and then a unicorn will come galloping through your bedroom and you'll just be like, I feel so good. And you will have days like that. But so much of the time, that unicorn's going to come through your bedroom and then just poop on the bed, right? It's hard. It's hard work, because it isn't just eating a strawberry that's red to balance your root chakra, right? If it was that easy, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. But it's not. It's a lot of deeply looking at yourself, your relationship to yourself, to your body, to others, to your divine, and exploring that. And so I think that's one of the biggest myths, is that it's going to be easy. The second myth I'll tell you is that we're supposed to balance somehow 1/7 of our energy or something in each chakra, right? It's not balancing like a scale. And also, if you somehow got your root chakra perfectly balanced, it wouldn't stay that way while you went to go work on another chakra. It's not a checklist of things to do. They don't operate individually.
Right.
So anytime, when you opened your crown chakra, got that all taken care of, and your headaches went away, well, that's going to affect the energy in the whole rest of your body. And all of a sudden new things will come up, maybe amazing things. So never shy away from it, because you can open your heart chakra and all of a sudden, feel free to speak my truth, right? Because you have that space now. But it isn't some sort of, I have achieved perfection. My chakras are all 100% open, right? It's not like an internet quiz on how that works, and it changes minute by minute. So I think those are probably the two biggest myths in my work. But like you said earlier, if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
So,
and again, there are so many myths and there are so many misconceptions about this type of work. So how, since you've been doing this for so long, I'm very curious to know, how much did this change over the past 20 years? Because right now it seems like a fad, and it seems like everybody is so into the chakras and the self-care and the yoga and the meditation, but it wasn't always like this. These topics were almost underground and quiet. So what was the evolution since you've been doing it for so long? What was that like?
That's a fascinating question. I will do my very best to answer it, because I think I also evolved along with the society. So I don't have some sort of like, I started out as an expert 20 years ago and I'm just watching people catch up to me. That's not at all what happened. But what I do think is important to note is that in the past, there is some sort of global spiritual awakening happening. I really feel like that is true, and that more people are connecting. Again, the teachings of ancient cultures have never been more accessible than they are right now. So access is a lot of it, but also in the sort of backlash to the 60s and 70s counterculture that brought us like the aggressive conservatism of the 80s sort of sent a lot of the spiritual progress that I think some of our foremothers and fathers did and pushed that back down, right? And so that's where I came to it out of, was that very sort of oppressive culture. So there was a certain amount of like, it's witchcraft, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And then there was also this sense that we were going to become completely evidence and science-based, right? And we were going to get away from any of that hoodoo and go completely towards just what we could measure and just what we could touch. And I actually think that did a terrible number on the health system and mental health, an absolute decline of our society in that way. So I think a lot of things sort of culturally happened, and now we're kind of coming out on the other side of that oppression that happened, at least in modern history. There's been plenty of oppression of these ideas over the course of human history.
Yeah.
So this is not new. We are part of a long tradition of trying to understand ourselves better. People have been doing this for all of human time. But I think another thing that happened is we got to a point where people realized sort of the spiritual trauma that was happening in their own personal lives. They were looking at their religious practices and realizing that they were not as inclusive or kind and compassionate as they wanted to be, or as they were pretending to be. There was too many people being left out of important spiritual practices of all kinds.
Yes.
And that wasn't connecting with their life experience, right? They weren't, like, I can give you a specific example, like the gay community being absolutely shunned by the church, and then people having gay friends and realizing like, hold on, my church said they were the devil, and actually they're amazing. And so that the disconnect started to become unbearable. And when the disconnect becomes so unbearable, a massive shift happens. And so people are having these big shifts and looking for other ways to explore their spirituality. I feel very blessed that I kind of stumbled into that when I did, because now after 20 years of studying, I finally felt like maybe I could tell some people some things, like that I maybe had some knowledge to share. But I mean, forever student. Yeah. Right. We're just always learning and always exploring. So I think that is sort of the main process of the evolution. And marginalized voices are being amplified now in a way that they have not been before. And that has been nothing but beneficial to society as a whole, and progress and justice.
I agree completely, especially when you touched on, the church and the way that, it's almost like one thing was preached, but yet another thing was practiced. And a lot of people had a difficult time reconciling the two, especially as we began to become adults. Because, when you're a child, you do as you're told and you go with the program. However, when you become an adult, you start asking questions and you start saying, okay, now that doesn't make any sense, and then you do start to question things and you do start to explore more. And that's one of the things that happened with me. And I am so grateful for that spiritual awakening that happened within me. It literally has changed my entire life.
Yes.
Now, how would you coach someone to use their chakras to manifest their ideal lives?
So this is one of my favorite topics. And I think we start with a discussion of what do you mean when you manifest your ideal life? Because if you're like, I just want to manifest a Ferrari, that's kind of not what
that's
that's
not
for.
how it works, y'all. That's not. I'm just telling y'all something right now. It's not how manifesting works. Because if that's the case, everybody would have Ferraris, large houses, and big fat bank accounts. Manifestation does not work like that.
No, it doesn't. And your partner would be perfect all the time.
Yes.
And
so
and
would you.
Yeah, and I would be perfect all the time. Oh, I would like that very much. But so I think really understanding what manifesting is sort of the first thing. And it's, in a lot of ways, it's manifesting the person that you are intended to be, right? Who did you come to this earth to be? That's who you want to manifest, because when that manifesting happens, when you become that person who you are, when you are your full, authentic self living in your truth, I think at that point, just about anything's possible. Maybe you are getting that Ferrari, big house, big bank account, probably not getting a perfect partner, because your partner will still be human, and so will you. But so really sort of redefining manifesting from, I'm going to manifest $50,000 by next week. Great. I wish you the best of luck. I hope that happens for you. I really, really do. In my experience, that's not how it works. So the way I teach it is sort of a two-step process, and each step has multiple steps. So the thing I discovered, so the downward current from energy from the universe and the crown to the physical plane and the root is frequently called the current of manifestation. Mm-hmm. And that's great. And I was working with that for a long time. And then what I discovered is that it wasn't working. So that's not helpful. The reason it wasn't working is, just like I was saying, I had a terrible block in my throat. Everything was coming down and getting stuck right here. Everything was a mess, right? That was never making it all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
And I could think about all of this all the time as much as I wanted, but the energy wasn't ever hitting the earth. So through a lot of trial and error on myself, and then with some really, really lovely women who went through a process with me, we started clearing from the bottom up. That's like a preparatory way of working with your energy. So starting at your root, right? And dealing with what you might call the shadow sides of each of these, and really sort of open them up, liberate the energy there. And not that, again, not going to stay that way, but until it's cleared out at least a little bit, it's really hard to manifest anything from the universe, which is what manifesting is, right? It's calling the things that already exist to you.
Yes.
So I can go over the steps sort of briefly, the clearing from the bottom. And the first one is in your root chakra, and your shadow side there is fear. Half the time we don't even want to admit that we have fear. But a lot of times when we don't get what we want, it's because we're actually afraid of it, right? It's scary to think about the big changes that could happen if you got exactly everything you wanted, how different your life would be. And that is terrifying. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what you're afraid of. Let's figure it out. Let's clear it out. Let's put a little light on it. And sometimes in the light, it starts to seem a little silly, but other times you're like, oh, fascinating. I cannot have success in my career. I am afraid of success in my career because then I will have to be fully seen. I don't want to be seen. I am terrified of outshining a sibling. I'm terrified of the criticism that will come from others, right? You need to know that when you're trying to manifest something, right? Clear that out. So when we sort of identify the fear, then we move up into the sacral chakra. And then I always like to talk about the feeling behind the fear, because half the time, where I say that a lot, half the time, it's a lot of the time. What we're afraid of is the feeling that we'll have. Will we have the feeling of shame? Will we have the feeling of rejection? What is the feeling that you're afraid of? Identify that. That is next level stuff right there.
Yes.
Because you're just like, oh, I'm afraid of success. You're not afraid of success. You're afraid of how you'll feel if you get success. So find out what that fear is. What is that fear? What is the fear if you have have money. What is the fear? Oh, your parents, your mom who never had money will look differently at you. These are real, legitimate fears. So what is that feeling? What's the feeling that you're afraid of? Explore that feeling. And a really important thing that we can do just in general for manifesting and for life purposes is understand and learn to trust ourselves to get through uncomfortable feelings and having the trust that we will come out on the other side okay. It's like they say, in the end, it will all be okay. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. I think that was John Lennon, right? Like, can you feel that feeling? Can you explore that feeling? Then bring it up into the solar plexus chakra where we talk about action. And I always say at that point, go ahead, take a tiny action. Doesn't have to be something big, but get the feeling of what it's like to take the action, right? And then you're all of a sudden going to have that fear and that sensation again. Yep. Great. Let it come up, right? You're going to take that tiny step. You want to start a business? You want to manifest a business? Buy the domain name. Oh my gosh, that'll get your heart rate pounding, right? So take a tiny action. Doesn't have to be a huge thing, just something little that's going to get you toward your goal, right? Or what you think your goal is right now, because that's one thing that's very interesting about manifesting, because you may realize that what you think you wanted is not the thing you wanted. Yep. And that's a super important thing to check in on every once in a while. So take the tiny action. Then we get up into our heart chakra. Start to feel some gratitude, right? I know I love listening to all of your guests talk about the various things they're grateful for, because I said, like, yes, I'm grateful for that too. Have some gratitude. Have some gratitude for the things you have. Have gratitude for the things you want, and learn to want the things you have, right? Like, these are gratitude. Let that heart chakra start to open. If there's no space in your heart for the things you're trying to manifest, they won't come. Mm-hmm. Then up into your throat chakra, where I suggest speaking your idea into the universe. The throat chakra is frequently said is to be the chakra of manifestation, because it's so powerful to put those vibrations out into the universe, the vibrations of your voice, of your desires. The thing I do warn people to be careful about is over sharing. You can have a chakra where energy is just flowing like it's gushing, as opposed to being constricted, as well as a nice balance, right? It's probably not great to share your deepest dreams and hopes with somebody who's not going to support you. That's right. Really not helpful, right? We think, oh, I've spoken it, I'm sharing it, I'm getting it out into the world, I'm opening my throat chakra. Great. But just be mindful so that you're not causing hurt or damage to yourself as you do. You can also start to sound desperate, like very needy and angsty, and the universe doesn't really respond well to that. It's like, I don't know what to do with that. You seem like you seem very frazzled and like you're not sure how to, like, what to do. So finding the balance there. And then in the third eye, clear that out. Make some space for imagination. That, or you call it visualization. That is, speaking of scientifically proven, that is a scientifically proven thing. Athletes use it. Successful entrepreneurs use it. Visualization, like really expanding your ability to imagine not just the thing, if it's a physical thing, but imagine the state of your being when you are manifesting. How does that feel in your body? What does that look like? What does that taste like or smell like even, right? So really getting a sense of how to picture it. And on the flip side of that, being open to realizing that you just don't always know the best how. You might have a great idea, but you don't always know the best how, which is what leads us to the crown chakra. And then we let it go. We let it go. I know what, and I know why, and I'm just going to let go of how. I'm not going to let go of how. But that's kind of the first step. That just clears the whole thing out so that when you start to be ready to accept those divine downloads, to start really getting clear on what you want, you've got room for it in your energetic body. Because if you're holding on to a bunch of trapped emotions and you've got a bunch of physical symptoms, it's really difficult to create anything new because you're operating from those constricted sensations. So that was a very long story about manifestation, but I hope that kind of gives you an idea of a place to start with manifesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny because I can remember trying to manifest my ideal life for a very long time and couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. And last November, I lost my grandmother, and my grandmother was my absolute world. But losing her, the grief of losing her, changed me. And literally, I want to say every single chakra from head to toe, it's like it cleared itself. And I've been able to open my mouth and speak things into existence. Better yet, I've been able to acknowledge what my real fears are, and like those feelings of not feeling like I'm enough, or what if nobody likes me, or what if this and that. And like, those are things I never would have spoken before, because a lot of people don't understand that these energetic blocks on obviously and honestly come from childhood. They come from your childhood experiences and your experiences as you grow as an adult. Those self-limiting beliefs come with you, and those are the things that are blocking your chakras. And my grandmother always believed in me. Like, even if it was something that was absolutely off the wall, if I told her I was going to go outside and jump off a building, she would have said to me, "Baby, I don't think that's a good idea, but here's a parachute. I mean,
here's a mattress. Just put it on the ground.
Yes, go ahead.
Take care of you, but all right, if you got to do it, baby, you got to do it."
And losing her was a catalyst for my life, and I will say that I am living my ideal life. There are things that are happening in my life that I didn't even dream of, that I didn't even think of, but yet it has come to fruition anyway. And that's something else that people must be careful of. You have to believe what you're asking the universe for.
Yes.
Because if you ask for it but don't really believe it's going to happen, it's not going to happen.
It won't happen.
It will not, because the universe is then confused. Like, okay, so do you want this or not want this? Like, I don't have time to be trying to figure this out.
Yeah, you could get back to me. Get back to me when you have a better, clearer picture.
Right.
Now, do you think that you're living your dream life because you really were able to connect to who you are at your deepest self?
Absolutely. I am now who I was always meant to be. And I stifled that because of limiting beliefs, trauma, all of the things. And I allowed those things to live rent-free for years, decades even. And it was something about losing her that caused me to really call on the person that I was really meant to be, in order to help me press through that pain, that grief, and to begin really, truly the healing process. I'm calling this summer my healing girl season, because I have never been happier. I am wide open right now. And I know people are looking like, what in the world happened to her?
Let them look.
I don't care.
No.
I do not care, because I am happy and I am at peace. I've never had this level of happiness and peace in my life ever.
That is phenomenal. And obviously I did not know your grandmother, but it sounds like she believed in that version of you. She always believed in that authentic version of you. And when she left this physical plane, you had to be that authentic version she believed in to keep living, to keep going, to process that grief. Only the truest version of you was ever going to be able to get through that grief. And that's amazing. That's such a beautiful story. I mean, I'm terribly sorry for the loss of your grandmother. It sounds like she was tremendously important to you, but
she was.
That's sort of a beautiful, what do they call that? Post-traumatic optimism.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I never believed that was a thing, until I experienced it. I again, and I had a friend tell me, she said, this, barring anything ever happening to your husband or children, she said, this is the worst pain you're ever going to feel in your life. And she said, but you will make it. You will. And,
Yeah.
you know, I've had so many wonderful people just flow into my life and gave me the support I needed. And they're like, I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you. You are just handling this with such grace. And your grandmother would be so proud. She would be so proud of you.
Yeah. She is. Not just she would be. I bet you she is.
I'm sure she is. Her and her sister, my aunt passed a few months after my grandmother did. And both of those ladies were very pivotal in my upbringing. And, you know, they encouraged me to live out loud, you know, but through other limiting beliefs, I chose to stifle that. And I always felt like a caged bird. But then losing them it was like, okay, look, what you gonna do? What are you gonna do here? Life is short. You can't live in this cage anymore. And so it's time.
That's right.
It's time. And I say it all the time, man, what a time to be alive.
Yeah. That's very, very, that's so beautiful. And just watching you say these things, that it's very touching.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Now, I have a crazy question to ask you.
I love it. Bring it on.
What is the weirdest smell you have ever smelled?
Okay. So I'll tell you the weirdest smell because it sticks out. It's the thing that leaps to mind. I was living in Germany. My husband was in the army, so we were living on an army base over there. And we had a gentleman come to the house to do some repair work, you know, just maintenance work. And he came through the door, and he smelled like a pretty standard mix of body odor. I mean, he was a maintenance guy, right? Yeah, it doesn't smell great, but also you're like, it's fine. I don't smell great either when I spend all day working, right? Like I'm not holding that against you. Tobacco. Okay. All right. A little bit of last night's whiskey or beer, I think.
Okay.
And popcorn? What?
That's an odd combination.
It was like popcorn, like almost like Fritos-ish smell. It was so specific. And my house had that weird booze, tobacco, body odor, Frito popcorn smell for like hours afterwards. I spent hours smelling it, and I was like, what is that? I mean, it wasn't, I don't know, it was very strange. But in any case, that's the weirdest smell I've ever smelled, and it has stuck with me forever. I've never smelled anything like it before.
Like, how long did it hang out?
Seriously, like several hours. Like,
Ew.
I had like opened windows and stuff like that. And it was unpleasant. It wasn't like I didn't want to gag or anything, but it was unpleasant. It's like, I don't want my house to smell like this. Like, this isn't, I would not buy this candle scent.
I'll pass.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. That is funny.
There you go.
Okay. So what is something that everybody looks stupid doing?
I guess we all look stupid doing something new for the first time.
Yeah.
Like kind of just whatever it is that's new to you, we all kind of look stupid. And like part of it is that we're going in almost afraid to look stupid.
Yeah.
And so you hold back. And I think anytime you look stupid doing something and then you're only doing it halfway, you look even extra stupid. So my personal philosophy is if I'm going to look dumb, I'm going to look real dumb. I'm going to just go all in and just be like, I'm not going to draw it out. I'm just going to have a concentrated amount of looking awkward and ridiculous and just see what happens. Right. So I think just trying anything new, but I think especially trying anything like physically new.
Yes.
Trying a sport as a not sporty person. I always tell people, like, don't mistake fit for sport. Like, I'm very fit. I cannot throw a ball. Like, it's terrible. So trying something physically new. If that's a dance class, maybe you're going to look stupid doing that, but like, great. Everybody looks stupid doing something new.
Something.
Join a really, really well-attended club full of the best people you've ever met. because that's who has tried something new and looked stupid, and we all got through it.
Every single person. Okay, so what is your favorite thing to do in your spare time that's embarrassing? She's like, all right, let me see if I really want to answer this.
Yeah, how much embarrassment am I willing to
tell?
And I'll again, like, because of my philosophy of just like go ahead and look dumb, it's tough to be embarrassed. But oh gosh. I mean, so I'm not exactly embarrassed about this, but I don't just go, spreading it all around town. So if you could just keep this between you and me and all of your listeners, I would appreciate it. But in my spare time, I love, love, love to watch Star Trek. I like to watch.
Embarrassing.
No, I don't think it's embarrassing either, but I love it. It really, like, it's very comforting to me. I love the idealism of it, but I know people think that's very like nerdy and geeky, and spoiler, I'm kind of nerdy and geeky, right? It's just part of who I am. But yeah, I think people don't think that meshes with like I work out at the gym. I'm a personal trainer. And also I really like to watch Star Trek: The Next Generation. Like, ooh, it's an episode about Data. Yay! Like, so I'm not exactly embarrassed about it, but I do think it's something that surprises people about me. And it is something I truly, truly love to do.
People don't understand that in a lot of ways, those of us that are on this, the spiritual awakening and the chakras, a lot of us are geeks. We really are. And, and many of us are creatives as well. And creatives tend to be geeky. So that's this girl right here.
I just thought of something else I do that really is embarrassing, but I think a lot of people do it. So I'm just going to speak it. I make up songs for my cats. I sing songs. I don't just sing songs to my cats. I have them sing verses back to me, and they have voices that I sing in. Oh my God, that actually is so embarrassing.
That is hilarious.
You said creative, and I was like, no, like that is like a thing, and I love to do. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I had like a whole song I wrote for them when they got themselves stuck in the bathroom once. They came in and they closed the door behind them, and then they were stuck in there. And so I made up a whole like duet that they would sing. Oh my God.
But it worked. It kept them calm so you could get them out.
That's right. And it was very cute. And everybody came out just fine. Everybody was fine. But they each have a very distinct singing voice.
Listen, I'd pay money to see that. Okay.
Thank you. I was like, I got to take my talents to Broadway, baby.
Yes, because I would pay money to see that, because I can imagine that it is probably the most comical thing ever.
We have a good time. It's very embarrassing. I'm like a little sweaty now thinking about telling people that.
It's precious. Okay. Would you rather walk around naked in public or go to jail for a year?
Oh, naked in public. I would much rather walk around naked in public.
Just naked.
Just naked in public. Like, listen, look, everybody's naked. Everybody knows what naked people look like. Yes. I am nothing spectacular, nor like I'm just smack in the middle average naked. I don't think I would not like to go to prison. I do not want to be locked up. No, thank you. It sounds awful. So that's an easy one. Naked in public.
What makes you feel inspired or motivated?
Something that makes me feel inspired is listening to people with vastly different experiences than my own. Because we kind of think we have a good handle on what the world is and how it works until you realize that the experience, like every single person on this planet is having a unique experience. And to learn about what somebody is doing in another country, or somebody who had a completely different upbringing than I did, or is doing something in a completely different field. I'm so inspired by people and their journeys. Not because I think I want to replicate it, but because it's just further evidence to me that the world is filled with people not just doing the best they can, while that is true, but they're also thriving and doing amazing, beautiful things that, most people are never going to hear about. So I'm just always like, tell me your story. What are you doing? Who are you? Like, we're nothing alike, and I can't wait to know more about you not so I can tell you, well, that's not how it was for me, because so what?
Right.
Like, so that's what I'm very, very inspired by that, by hearing about experiences that are vastly different from what I've had. And I think that's also it's also motivating. I love traditional motivational things, listening to motivational podcasts or reading motivational books. I love that as well. But to me, sometimes those one-on-one connections, and I'll never get to all 8 billion people. Like, I'll never hear all 8 billion stories, but the stories that I will hear, I'll hold on to them, for a long time.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. I love getting to meet new people. I love watching I also love watching people's evolutions. Yes. So when you meet somebody, wherever you meet them at that particular time, and then you connect on a deeper level and you get to watch them as they evolve and as they grow. Like, I love it. I'm here for it. I'm like everybody's biggest cheerleader, because I love watching it, because it's really a thing to watch someone grow and really become whoever it is that they really desire to be. So tell my audience how they can find you, how they can reach out to you if they would like to work with you and get to know more about the chakra system. Yeah, drop all that information on them.
Sure. I think one of the most in-depth ways to get to know a little bit more about the chakra system or about me is to listen to my podcast. It's called Your Chakra Coach. And that's also my website, yourchakracoach.com. It's also my Facebook and my Instagram. So kind of just Your Chakra Coach anywhere. But yeah, the podcast has many, many episodes. If you're interested in learning more about the manifestation, there's a 7-week series on that where I spend 20 to 30 minutes breaking down each one. So you can go and learn more about that. There's also a lot of there's series on yoga philosophies, the yamas and the niyamas, which, if you haven't heard of those, they're just yoga, yoga ethical principles. But yeah, find me there. If you want to go to the website, you can. There, I do have coaching and things available, but honestly, if you're just interested in knowing more, go to the podcast. There's lots of information there, and it's free.
Awesome. 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 Sarah, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence and all of your wisdom and knowledge on the chakra system. I appreciate you so much for joining us on the Melanin Wellness Podcast.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening, everybody. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, share it on social media or leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can find all the details and links discussed in this episode in the show notes. And to catch the latest from the show, you can go visit the website, themelaninwellnesspodcast.com, and join my mailing list. We've always got some stuff going on over there. Thanks again, family, and I will see you next time. Be well.